It has been several weeks since the Romulan Republic settled Dewa III and the Khitomer conference where the Klingon Empire, Federation of Planets and the Star Empire congregated to recognise the Romulan Republic as an independent power. The Star Empire was heavily opposed to the idea. However, as the Tal Shiar attempted to sabotage the talks with explosives, the Federation and the Klingons both consider their opinion to be somewhat invalid. As a result, the Federation acknowledged the Republic's sovereignty over their own space alongside the Klingons, and extended diplomatic ties with the settlers of New Romulus. These ties take the form of trade opportunities, tentative shared research, and an exchange of officers, as well as helping to build New Romulus into a new home.
We have the strength now. With the help of Starfleet and the Empire, we could destroy what's left of the Tal Shiar. We would be safe. We would be free.
There are too few of us left to fight amongst ourselves. Military action should be our last option.
I don't see how talking to them will be enough. But I'm a warrior, not a politician. If my people are to find a home here, there must be a leader capable of building a new future, of looking past our differences to find harmony. You are that leader, Detan.
Since I was a child hiding in the sewers of the capital with the reunificationists, I have worked toward the day when the Romulans would once again walk beside their Vulcan brothers and sisters. Before that can happen, we need to rebuild. We need a home to replace what was lost, to see past our grief and find acceptance. We need to reconcile with the Remans and end the centuries of strife and oppression. The fate of both our peoples rests here. We either create a new homeworld out of the ashes, or we wither and die. Thank you for agreeing to assist us. I'm grateful that both the Federation and the Empire have temporarily put aside their differences to help create a new Romulus. This proves that unification is possible, both for my people and for yours. We're building a new home here. Romulans and Remans can't continue on like nothing has changed. Everything is different. We are a changed people. The loss of Romulus wounded us greatly. But that wound will not be fatal. There is a great deal of work to do before we can truly call this our new home. But with your help, I know Mol'Rihan, or New Romulus in your language, will someday be as great as what we lost. Kylor is in charge of the staging area. He can give you more information about what we need. There's much to do, and little time. We left our first home to remain free. We lost our adopted home to treachery. May this world be the home we have sought for so long, a place where our descendants can live in peace.
So Captain Mark Hale here has been assigned to aid in the construction efforts of New Romulus and help in any way that doesn't contradict with Starfleet's own policies. The Klingon Empire has made similar strides in making its presence felt on New Romulus, and it's a strange turn of events to see two powers who are at war meeting on neutral ground to assist another. We report to Admiral Verloth, the Starfleet representative on Mol'Rihan, who shares in Ambassador Spock's dream of reunification. He does, however, admit that any action we take in aiding the Republic risks angering the Star Empire, potentially making another adversary. As of right now, although tense, it's mostly been the Tal Shiar who have been openly acting out against the Federation, while Empress Sela has been making aggressive and opportunistic pushes in a typically cryptic fashion, but never declaring full-scale war.
Let me brief you on the situation here. We're building a new city here, at the site where people first landed on this world more than 2,000 years ago, after the Sundering. Our Reman friends will take the lower levels, where they can feel most at home. We'll use the staging area as a landing site for shuttlecraft, and a place to coordinate construction and future shipping. Many of our records were lost with the homeworld. But what we do have indicates that there was a battle here before the colony ships left to find Romulus.
You found what could be
the Sword of the Raptor Star, one of our most revered artifacts
here on this world.
There's still much we need to learn about this world and its inhabitants. This creature, for example, how did it adapt to the radiation that until recently made this world unsuitable for colonization?
Blurb.
Recent scans are showing the radiation falling into manageable levels. With modern technology and your assistance, this should be a place where the Romulan and Reman people can thrive for generations to come. We've found ruins that date back to the Sundering, and beneath them, signs of what may be a much older civilization. Who lived here eons ago? What happened to them? We're doing what we can, but we can't do it alone. If you're here to help, I'll get you started.
Foreman Kyler here has made a career in shipping, cargo and mining. He actually used to toil in Romulan mines, and cannot resist a jab at Starfleet stereotypes, saying that we all assume mines just spring up out of magic. After Hobus destroyed Romulus, he was in the Rator system, the home of what would eventually become the seat of the Star Empire, when he heard of Detan, and decided for himself that the Star Empire was clinging to the past, and Detan had the future in mind. With our introductions complete, we're given the task of rolling up our sleeves and getting stuck in with the efforts. And naturally, don't shoot the Klingons. The construction efforts include such odd jobs as talking to the workforce, acquiring reports and turning them in, keeping an eye out for suspicious activity, and conducting general repairs and fixes. This takes a long time, but it affords us a good opportunity to explore the staging area. Outside of the main hall, which is acting as the seat of the Republic's power and the fledgling military HQ, there are many temporary structures set up around the planet. Tents and fabric dividers mark out different sections with varying priorities. Amid all of this, however, the Romulans continue to proudly display their heraldry with flags and statues of the Raptor. They may not be affiliated with the Star Empire anymore, but they are no less proud to be Romulan. Clustered among the tents is a medical bay for treating construction-related accidents, as well as open areas dedicated to landing pads for small craft. This is going to take a while, so let's roll up our sleeves and get stuck in. While we handyman our way around the facilities, let's look at the history of Mol'Rihan, New Romulus. At present, not all of this information is known to the Romulan Republic, as they are discovering things at their own pace, but this makes for a good opportunity to discuss Dewa III's ancient history. New Romulus has 2 moons, one of which has been heavily damaged and destroyed. Back in the distant past, around 200,000 years ago, it was the time of the Iconians. This spacefaring empire once spanned a multitude of systems and vanished into myth and history. Their homeworld of Iconia was discovered in 2365, but it had been reduced to a cinder of its former glory due to intense orbital bombardment. Some automated defences and technologies remained in operation, and Captain Picard discovered the presence of the Iconian Gateway technology, a form of little understood transportation that covered vast distances in an instant by stepping through a portal. Ultimately, it's this technology that has caught the interest of the Tal Shiar and former Praetor Taris in particular. In fact, Taris seemed convinced that the Iconians were in fact returning to the galaxy, claims that seem ludicrous, but Starfleet is keeping one eye on the situation just in case. From the evidence unearthed, it seems that the other species of the time didn't view the Iconians too favourably, whether from fear of their technology or hostility on the Iconians' part. It seems a matter best left for historians to decide. But one of the many planets that the Iconians descended on was Dewa III. The records gradually unearthed through the exploration of Dewa III's ruins reveals that the Iconians enslaved the native populace, the Dewans, for a long time. Records indicate that the Dewans saw them appear out of light and they wielded weapons that emitted fire and burnt them if they refused to cooperate. This sounds like an advanced civilization using its abilities to subjugate a more primitive one. Eventually a rebellion began, as it always will in these types of situations, against the Iconians across a myriad of their territories. The natives of Dewa III were no exception, and they overthrew the Iconians, which eventually led the Iconians to vanish from the galactic map and fade into history. The exact details of this event are still hazy. The Dewans were left crippled by their rebellion, however, with lower numbers and lots of scattered Iconian technology just left behind. Unfortunately, due to the slavery and reliance on Iconians, a lot of them died from things like malnutrition and disease once the Iconians were gone. However, they persevered, their hard-won freedom driving them on, and after a further 50,000 years of development, the Dewan culture had flourished once again. They had mostly discarded the technology of the Iconians in this time, being unable to work it. Their own history and record of events had become muddied by the passage of time and retelling, and now the Iconians had faded into mythological beings of intense power, revered as gods. Whether these gods deserved worship, fear, or some measure of both was likely the subject of great debate among the scholars of the time. Oh, hello, who's this shifty-looking fellow? It seems that there are Romulan Star Empire, possibly Tal Shiar spies littering this planet. In fact, this is confirmed moments later as we are attacked by an operative. Well, it seems rather than risking capture, he'd rather engage in a firefight, so let's oblige. Life advice. Never turn your back on a Vulcan with a heavy repeating plasma rifle. Anyway, the Dewans flourished, their culture evolving as many do to the point of space exploration. They developed probes that could reach other systems and had begun to map the heavens. They even discovered the planet Narenja through observation, but warp drive, faster than light travel, was a problem they had yet to crack. During the times when they were planning to do their first manned flight beyond their own system, they discovered a remaining Iconian gateway deep beneath their planet. Some of the population wished to find the Iconians once again, believing them still as gods. Still others were reminded of the myths of Dewan slavery and the stories of demons of air and darkness. I mean, this had been around 50 millennia since the Iconians by this point, so some confusion as to their own history is understandable. The planet was split on what to do with the device. Reactivate it to learn from it, reactivate it to try to find their gods, or just destroy it out of fear of drawing the ire of Iconia. By this stage, the planet's inhabitants were still planet-bound and had very little idea of what lay in the inky depths of space, plus how true were the ancient tales of their vengeful gods. Well, curiosity proved too much for the innate explorers, and they reactivated the Iconian Gate. The gate was powered by their planet's tectonic activity, and they decided to utilise this already made power grid to tap the geothermal powers of their planet. But due to the damage done millennia earlier by the rebellion, the faulty device caused a massive tectonic event of calamitous proportions. It will be thousands of years before the volcanic winter ends, and most of their society was destroyed by volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. The planet on which we stand 150,000 years ago was inhospitable, and the Dewans on its crust falling prey to a toxic atmosphere filled with smothering gases and a clouded sky freezing its surface. The species was adapted to the background radiation levels of the planet caused by the Iconian Rebellion's bombardment, but this proved to be a climate change too far. The Dewans died out, slowly and tragically, on the cusp of developing the interstellar technology that would have saved them. Although the planet would settle over hundreds of years, the extinction level event left it barren. Life would return slowly, but the background radiation from eons ago made it a poor choice for colonization from other species exploring the void of space. 2,000 years ago, around the 4th century of Earth, the Vulcans were undergoing their own nuclear war. This was the time of awakening, where Surak's teachings of logic and the suppression of emotion led to the sundering of the Vulcan people, which is a topic already well covered in previous videos. Those who marched beneath the Raptor's wings, the exiles of Vulcan, charted their course deep into the Beta Quadrant, and along the way settled on Dewa III, thinking it a potential prospect for being their new home despite the radiation levels and its dissimilarity to Vulcan. I imagine many simply were getting fed up of the journey and wished it over. What had been a pit stop began to look more permanent with the construction of roads, settlements and buildings of stone. Eventually riots broke out among the Vulcans that proved fatal in over 200 instances, and the matter was settled after this event, and the refugees decided to continue onwards to find a new homeworld, which we now know to be the planet Romulus. During the skirmish, the Sword of the Raptor Star, a blade forged by the Vulcan Master Smith, Saharian, was lost on Dewa III and remained there until it was discovered by the Tholian scouts, who were on the planet looking for something. Though their efforts were soon interrupted by a Romulan Republic survey team, as we saw in this story series. The ruins that litter this world are both those of the Duans and the ancestors of the Romulans, meaning that they vary from 150,000 years old to 2,000 years old. The older Duan ones, much like the Duan language, was inspired by their once subjugators, the Iconians. So there we have it. Dewa III, now christened New Romulus, in fact has very little new about it.
I've received reports of Tal Shiar spying on New Romulus. Not a surprise, but we need to stay cautious. Most recently, I've acquired a recording that has actionable information. I'd like for you to follow up on it.
This assignment is likely in response to our own discoveries on the planet. Of course, this isn't just a home for the Romulans. When we arrived, we saw Obisek, the de facto leader for the Romulan people, sizing up Datan and concluding that he was sincere in his desire to look out for the Romulan people too. In the shade of the cliffs and the Republic HQ by the seafront, we can see the Romulans' own construction effort, with the dim lighting but much grander architecture than the slum-like conditions they are often found in. Investigating around the Capitol building, we're guided to a hidden cache inside of which is a recording addressed to us directly.
I'll be going now, unless you need anything else. Do you want me to bring you something to eat?
No, thank you. I'll see you in the morning.
Proconsul, may we speak?
How did you get in here?
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Sub-Commander Kiana, and I represent certain individuals interested in the future of the Romulan people.
Don't patronize me. You mean the Tal Shiar.
If you want to be blunt, yes.
What do you want, Sub-Commander?
An agreement that will benefit us both. You agree to allow us to advise you on the governing of this colony, and in return we will do all we can to assist you with any complications that may arise.
You want to play kingmaker. I'm no king, and deals made in the dark never end well. If you want to open negotiations, contact my office during business hours.
You know as well as I do that would be pointless. There's too much bad blood, and the Federation and the Klingons would never agree. I'd be lucky to leave the negotiations alive. Hakiv's death and the disappearance of the Empress has left my organization at loose ends. The Tal Shiar needs a strong leader. You have the trust of the Klingons, Starfleet, the Romulans. Just imagine what you could do with our help.
Are you trying to bribe me?
Merely presenting options. A wise man would see that this is his best, his only option.
I was instructed by the wisest of men, Sub-Commander. Spock taught me that openness and truth have more power than secrets. I want all Romulans to unite, even the Tal Shiar. But it can only happen in the light of day.
I'll give you time to reconsider. We have similar goals to Tan. You want to rebuild Romulan power. So do we. Think about it. We will speak again.
Computer, give me everything we have on the Tal Shiar.
I like how security recordings have a sense of dramatic camera angles in the future. It's great. So I'm hesitant to release this information. We've been fed it on purpose, clearly, and if it was from Datan, why hide it? It could be from the Tal Shiar in an attempt to sour relations between the Federation and the new Romulan Republic, by casting Datan in a more unflattering light. But I'd say that this recording, if anything, proves Datan's convictions in opposing tyranny and insidiousness, though I guess there are those who would simply look at this and declare Datan is in contact with the Tal Shiar. Oh, we'd be disobeying if we didn't submit it to Starfleet for review anyway. Clearly, we're going to be dealing with the Tal Shiar in the future, and so far, Datan has proven to be a capable leader who genuinely has the welfare of his people as his priority. What's more, his definition of what constitutes his people is wide enough to include those who would be spurned by more indolent powers, the kind of leader that people will put their trust in. Let's just hope that he remains as incorruptible as he appears. The strength of this alliance is mostly on him at the moment. If it continues, its burden will eventually be lifted from his shoulders and spread over the backs of rising individuals from the Republic and Starfleet, making for a firm alliance. And maybe, with the cooperation of the Klingons in this matter too, we can translate success here into the re-establishment of the Federation-Klingon alliance. That's a long shot though, and we'll have to take things one step at a time, as the Republic has. After all, look how far they've come on their own. Now it's down to us to find those who wish to undermine the Romulan Republic and pull the carpet out from under them. This will be in the next part of the Star Trek Online story series, as we continue to aid New Romulus in its efforts to explore the ever-expanding narrative of Star Trek Online. Thanks for watching this part, and I hope you'll join the crew of the USS Armiger and Captain Mark Hale as we continue through the Romulan story. So until next time, I've been Rick, thanks again, and Joel and True.